Now, from the Pope John Paul II Cultural Center in Washington, D.C., Raymond Arroyo.
Thank you all for being here. Welcome to The World Over Live. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Yes, I am wearing the green. How comforted St. Patrick must be to know that people around the world at this very hour are getting loaded on Guinness and falling into gutters, all in his honor. Anyway, we will remember St. Patrick properly throughout the show, and St. Joseph's Day is just around the corner as well. Didn't want my Italian brethren to feel slighted. You see, there's a yellow desk back there. You see it? I got a little. Do you want to do the mix and match? We're equal opportunity celebrators here. Straight ahead, there's been some controversy recently over the use of corporal punishment, paddling, at a Catholic high school in New Orleans. Father John Raphael, a Josephite priest and the president of St. Augustine High School, is here to explain the school policy and why he thinks it should be reinstated. Does it comport with Catholic teaching? What do you think? And later, we'll discuss the 10 habits of happy moms and why some mothers so desperately need to implement them. Author, physician, and family expert Meg Meeker is here, and she'll answer your parenting questions. So if you'd like to be part of the show, the number 1-800-221-9460 in the U.S. and internationally 205-271-2980, or drop us an email, worldover@EWTN.com. Let's get things started. Here's the brief. News from the world over this week. As a fractured Japan continues to deal with a deepening nuclear emergency at its Fukushima plant, recovery and relief efforts are underway after last week's earthquake and tsunami. Emergency relief workers are still looking for survivors and are rushing to get essentials to evacuees. Water, food, and fuel are running low in the affected region. More than 5,000 are confirmed dead, with nearly 10,000 still missing. Almost 500,000 people have been displaced, most living in temporary shelters. Early estimates put the cost to rebuild at $150 billion. That would exceed the recovery costs of Hurricane Katrina. The church in Japan has asked for help. Pope Benedict has already sent $100,000 along with his prayers. To assist in the relief effort, go to the website of Catholic Relief Services at www.crs.org/Japan. Click the link to donate. The human tragedy unfolding in this country is really unfathomable, so help any way you can. Back in Washington on Tuesday, a government shutdown was again temporarily averted as the U.S. House passed a bill to fund the government for another 3 weeks. The short-term budget did not include the amendment eliminating Planned Parenthood funding. The abortion industry giant receives more than $300 million a year in taxpayer support. Pro-life advocates are pushing for the amendment, and some 54 Republicans voted against the final bill, many because of the continued funding of Planned Parenthood and groups like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Meanwhile, Washington's assault on marriage continues. Just weeks after the Obama administration left the Defense of Marriage Act defenseless in the courts, Democrats in both houses this week introduced bills to repeal the law. In effect, the 1996 law bars the federal government from recognizing same-sex marriages and further restricts same-sex couples from receiving federal benefits. If it were to pass, the so-called Respect for Marriage Act would give same-sex couples federal benefits such as filing joint income taxes and deductions, as well as spousal benefits under Social Security, health insurance, and other taxpayer-funded programs. Meanwhile, House Republicans this past week directed their general counsel to defend the Defense of Marriage Act in place of the absent Obama administration. And fresh off his election last week, Ireland's new Prime Minister made his St. Patrick's Day rounds in Washington, as is tradition for Ireland's top official. Soft-spoken Fine Gael party leader Enda Kenny was elected by a coalition government without opposition, a first for Ireland. Before making his way to the capital, Kenny spent part of the morning with President Obama at the White House. They used the occasion to announce the president's upcoming May visit to Ireland. President Obama also touted his Irish roots. His great-great-great-grandfather hailed from the Emerald Isle. And a new startling report on Christian persecution was released this week by the Vatican agency Aid to the Church in Need. According to the report, 75% of all religious persecution around the world is directed against Christians. Approximately 100 million are targeted. Cardinal Keith O'Brien of Scotland used the release of the new report to reprimand the British government for what he called an anti-Christian foreign policy. He specifically pointed to the government's doubling of foreign aid to Pakistan without requiring any commitment for religious freedom there. Pakistan's Islamic-based anti-blasphemy law has resulted in the deaths of several public officials. This week, a 55-year-old Catholic, Amar David, was laid to rest after being declared a blasphemer. British aid to Pakistan equals more than $700 million US. U.S. military aid in 2010 was $1.2 billion, not counting the economic aid as well, which is over $1 billion. And Lebanon's Maronite Catholic Church has elected a new patriarch. Bishop Bushara Rai, a 71-year-old monk, becomes the Maronites' 77th leader. He carries the official title of Patriarch of Antioch and of all the east of the Maronites. His predecessor, Cardinal Nasral Savir, retired last month at the age of 90. Following his election, Patriarch-elect Rai said his church would be praying for other Middle Eastern countries during their current woes and for a resolution to Lebanon's political crisis as the country struggles to form a new government. Maronite Catholics are the country's largest Christian group, making up 21% of the total population. With the help of Facebook and YouTube, the Vatican is hoping to create some online buzz for the upcoming beatification of Pope John Paul II. The JP2 social media sites are the Vatican's latest attempts at a greater online presence. The new Facebook page offers audio and video content of the late and great Pope and details of his upcoming May 1st beatification in Rome. And as always, you can count on EWTN to bring you live coverage of the beatification of John Paul II. Yours truly will be there in Rome as it happens. We've lined up some very special interviews. You won't want to miss any of it. Our coverage starts with a special world over from the Vatican on Thursday, April 28th, and continues that weekend. Go to EWTN.com for more details. And finally, in New York, a sea of green filled Fifth Avenue on Thursday for the 250th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. Officials estimated about 200,000 marchers were in attendance and 2 million spectators lined the parade route, making it the largest St. Paddy's Day parade in the world. Among the spectators was English actor Daniel Craig. He caught up with Archbishop Timothy Dolan in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. James Bond confessed that even he was feeling very Irish among the green-clad masses. Archbishop Dolan summed up what the day is truly about.
Well, any place you are for St. Patrick's Day, the message is going to be about faith and family and friendship. Here in New York, it's particularly vivid because this city is almost an icon of welcome and encouragement of faith and neighborhood and family and friendship. It's what Ireland is all about. It's what New York's all about. It's what the United States of America is all about.
Well, we're only 2 weeks away from Lent, or into Lent, rather, and there's still time for you to pick up your copy of the Truth and Life Dramatized Audio Bible. It's the only Vatican-endorsed, fully dramatized New Testament available anywhere. Now, I'm starting a new contest this week. The first person to answer the question correctly will get a free copy of the entire Truth and Life Dramatized Audio Bible set. Here's the question. Which actors appearing on the Truth and Life Bible worked with me on a previous project I produced? Send your answer to Raymond@RaymondArroyo.com. The first 5 people to name the 2 actors win the Bible sets. Include your name and address on the email and put contest in the subject line. And remember, I posted the entire Gospel of Mark at RaymondArroyo.com as a free gift to you. And if you'd like to purchase the set, you can click on the banner at the top of the site. And if you're planning a trip to Washington, D.C., why not experience the world over in person? Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Drop us an email at worldoverdc@yahoo.com, and we'll reserve a seat for you. When we return, should paddling be used in Catholic schools? Is it an effective disciplinary technique? Father John Raphael from St. Augustine High School in New Orleans will tell us his experience when the World Over Live continues. Stay right there.
Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to the World Over Live. For 60 years now, St. Augustine High School in New Orleans has been educating generations of outstanding, largely black young men. The school was founded in 1951 by the Josephite Fathers, and from its inception, it used corporal punishment, in this case, a wooden paddle, known at St. Aug as the Board of Education. A few months ago, a temporary moratorium was placed on paddling at the intercession of the Archbishop of New Orleans, Gregory Aymond. The St. Aug community, the principal, the president, alumni, and families are objecting to the moratorium. Joining us tonight is the president of St. Aug's, a Josephite priest, best known nationally for an impassioned pro-life speech he delivered at Notre Dame, his alma mater, the day President Obama received an honorary degree there. Please welcome via satellite from New Orleans, Father John Raphael. Thanks for being here, Father.
Thank you for having me, Raymond.
Father, let's start with the question of whether this indeed violates Catholic teaching, using a paddle as a means of discipline. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, we have to look at the larger issue of discipline in general, and where does discipline come from? In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, in the section that treats of the duties and responsibilities of parents in the education and discipline of their children, you'll find there an interesting reference. You know, the Catechism will often complete a theological and catechetical presentation with scriptural quotes. There are two quotes that follow that particular section. One, an Old Testament reference, he who loves his child will not spare the rod. And the second, a New Testament reference, namely, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. Appropriate and proportionate corporal correction, which is a term many of our community like to use, is not only is it consistent with Catholic teaching, it is, certainly for us and for many of us in our family lives, a proven method of providing an immediate response to low-level disciplinary problems that help to refocus those young people who respond to that particular form of punishment and to help them reorient themselves to the things that they need to do. At St. Augustine, not only have we found it consistent with our Catholic faith for the last 60 years, we have also found it to be very effective. I'm also a 1985 graduate of St. Augustine High School and having experienced corporal correction both at home with my dear parents, whom I love dearly, and I'm very happy they raised me the way they did and sent me to St. Augustine, which continued, as we do today, the consistent discipline, establishment of boundaries, as well rewards and punishments based on student behavior.
I want to throw this open to callers. If you have a question or a comment, give us a call. 1-800-221-9460 in the U.S. Internationally, 205-271-2980. Or send us an email, worldover@EWTN.com. Do you think paddling is appropriate? Father, I want to go back to you. How is the paddling meted out? What is the, what are the reasons that you would paddle a boy? And it's done in front of the class, I understand.
Okay. Traditionally, at St. Aug, our handbook has 4 categories of disciplinary infractions, and of course they increase and the penalties evolve as the infractions become more serious. Corporal punishment, the paddle at St. Aug, is used for the lower level type of disciplinary models. These are not, corporal punishment would never be used for a serious problem, repetitive behavior, issues that would involve parental conferences or issues that a child may bring from home that may actually require some kind of counseling or referral. These are corporal punishment is used for the kinds of things that might cause disorder in the classroom, distract other students from their kind of work. At our school, it's always been administered. It's a 1 or 2 whacks on the bottom. It is very moderate. The use of it. We have such a long and sustained tradition of it. Though the image may elicit in the minds of those who are unfamiliar with it all kinds of medieval images, et cetera, those are all gross caricatures. In fact, I think if that were the case, you would not have seen an entire community, not only the adults, but the student members of our community, our alumni from the class of 1955, the first graduating class, our alumni from the class of 2010, who just graduated less than a year ago, understand the role that this particular form of discipline plays within the larger context of a very extensive and proportionately ordered disciplinary philosophy. Our discipline is designed to help young boys grow into responsible young men, and the role that corporal punishment plays, which is not, remember, it becomes a fetish for its opponents. For us,
I want
it
to
is
play a
just
little
small
bite for you here.
Sure.
I want to play a little bite for you here. This is your Archbishop, Gregory Amond. He doesn't share your opinion on this. In fact, it was at his intercession that this moratorium was declared. Here's a little bite. I want to play this and get your reaction.
We do have a rule in the Archdiocese that corporal punishment is not in any of our schools. I do not know any Catholic high school in the United States that allows corporal punishment. And so it saddens me. It's heavy on my heart that this is going on. And I truly believe that we teach violence by being violent. I know there are cultural differences, and that's what I have to think about and reflect upon.
Father, are you teaching violence by being violent?
Okay, I'm glad you chose that clip. Archbishop Amond is a native of New Orleans, and he was rector of the seminary and also auxiliary bishop. As we said, we've been doing what we do at St. Aug for 60 years. So though he just came back 2 years ago as ordinary, anyone from New Orleans is fully and completely aware of the St. Augustine traditions and the St. Augustine way of life, as well as the impact that our school has had on the larger New Orleans community. What has particularly angered, hurt, and disappointed our community is that Archbishop Amond, in framing his comments the way he did, has linked the discipline at St. Augustine with violence in the city. If you continue in that particular video log that he has, there is a connection made between what he describes as violence taught at St. Augustine and violence in the city of New Orleans. I think he fails to distinguish between force and violence. One of the definitions of violence is force that is used with the intent to abuse or to harm. Now, anyone who believes that not only the administrators, faculty, and staff of St. Augustine High School, but also the parents who are sacrificing to pay over $7,000 a year to place their sons in the environment that St. Augustine has created for 60 years, and students who have fully understood and appreciated the culture and ethos and the value of a St. Augustine education, as I did when I was a student, anyone who believes that this community is so distorted, so disturbed, that they're all committing themselves to a life of violence, it would seem to me that that person's judgment really ought to be in question. I have no problem with people who disagree with corporal punishment. St. Aug is not on a crusade to have every school institute corporal punishment, but I distinguish, use an example, the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan. A vegetarian chooses not to eat meat, and that's fine, but the vegan believes that the rest of us ought not to eat meat as well. The analogy limps a little, but nonetheless, I would take great exception, and our community has taken great exception to the Archbishop's, again, linkage of violence, which we would all decry. St. Augustine cares for its students. It cared for me. It cared for my classmates. It cared for my teachers who went to St. Augustine before me, and we care with the parents.
I'm running out of time, Father, so just give me 1 second. I'm running out of time, so I've got to get through a few more things here. I want to fill our viewers in. This was instigated by a letter that Archbishop Aymon received from the USCCB Office of Child and Youth Protection, which came from an activist in Ireland who was concerned about the corporal punishment at St. Aug, keeping the Irish theme of St. Patrick's Day. Archbishop Aymon at this point says, you are breaking the rules. It's simply a rule in the Diocese of New Orleans that we don't do corporal punishment. Okay. What's wrong with that?
Okay, remember, we are a private Catholic school in the Archdiocese of New Orleans. We are not an archdiocesan Catholic school, and if you I don't want to get into the details of canon law, but whereas every school to be called Catholic publicly has to have the permission of the ordinary, Canon 803, I believe it is, and Canon 806, there are certain internal governance matters that belong to schools that are owned and operated by religious communities. This is one of them, certainly as we see it, and there are other issues that other private schools in the Archdiocese might have as well. So again, we have been exercising our right as a religious community that owns and operates a school. And keep in mind, we have done this consistently. We have had several archbishops going back to Archbishop Rummel, just as we've had several superiors general, and never have we been questioned prior by an ordinary until 2 years ago. So we are not doing anything new or novel. At the time we opened, other schools would have done it. Other schools have freely chosen not to, but we believe that it continues to be an effective way of helping us to form our young men to be the responsible citizens that we want them to be.
Father, very briefly, before I go to a caller here, what has been the impact of this moratorium? What impact has it had on the students? Demerits, suspensions, that sort of thing?
Yeah. What it has done is it has caused a ratcheting up in the kinds of punishments. You know, students who ordinarily wouldn't get detentions or Saturday detentions are now getting those kinds of remedies. Things that would ordinarily be nipped in the bud tend to drag on a little more. More students, unfortunately, are suspended. And this is one of the things St. Aug has really, traditionally, we do not like to suspend a student unless absolutely necessary. We want the student in school. We want him in class. More students are being suspended because of this, because we need to be consistent. And tragically, there have certainly been 1 or 2 students who have been dismissed from school who, in other circumstances, had we had our ordinary disciplinary policy, it would not have happened. You have to keep in mind that St. Aug was functioning, fine. We were doing well until this external influence. And it bothers us also that for instance, the Irish letter you referred to, just totally connected with the sexual abuse of kids, that the attempts to link our disciplinary policy, either with violence in the city or with sexual abuse of kids, it's really, really disappointing to us that if you have stronger arguments, use them. But this association with clearly offensive and reprehensible practices is really unfair to our school.
I want to go to this caller, Laura from California. What's your concern here, Laura?
Yes, first of all, he was referring to the disciplining children, which implies the parent is how to raise their children. That's the references that I've seen in the Bible, and nowhere does it say outsiders, not the non-parents, can do and discipline with corporal punishment. Mm-hmm. So the Bible doesn't back that, number one. Number two, I'm a Catholic and a behaviorist, and I have a special needs child who's a grown man. Mm-hmm. And I've successfully raised 2 children without corporal punishment. Mm-hmm. And I am not saying I'm against it entirely, but it's only for parents. No way on earth as a parent would I allow my kids to go to a school that would have teachers, and I've been on campus 18 years plus.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I'm going to leave it there. Father, react to that. There is a concern. I'm seeing it in some of the emails, and it was my first thought. Why not let the parents met out this sort of discipline? Well, why should the school be doing that?
Well, first of all, parents are the primary educators of their children according to Catholic teaching. Again, and I want to say we're not taking a sola scripturist view and saying that just because it's in the Bible in this particular verse we're going to do it. No, what we have is a cooperation with our parents. St. Augustine is a school where young African-American boys are groomed to become responsible men. Many of our kids, not all of them, but many of our kids come from single-parent families. Parents are choosing our school because of the environment, because not only of the discipline, but because of the brotherhood that is a part of our school. Parents have the right to choose the environment in which they want their kids educated. And parents also trust the school, and we have a 60-year history of the school. Again, with all of the public attention that's been drawn to us, most of the commentators have been amazed that not only the parents, but also the students are fully supportive of what we do. That is evidence in and of itself of the cooperation, the collaboration, and the effectiveness of what we're doing. It's interesting. Archbishop Amon once to our community said that corporal punishment breeds low self-esteem. Our students conducted a rally on their own. They asked us permission to do so. We granted it, where they clearly articulated their disagreement with the bishop's assessment of our school. When he visited our school, they stood up and politely expressed their position. I don't think that's evidence of low self-esteem. We build students with strong character. We want them to stand up, speak out for themselves, as indeed we are doing as recipients of that tradition. So we are in complete cooperation with our parents.
For the sake of the viewers, I'm a New Orleans native, and anybody who'd been to a Mardi Gras parade knows of the Purple Knights. This is an outstanding school and truly one of the bright lights in the African-American educational community. I mean, the caliber of men that are turned out of St. Augustine is heads and shoulders above anything in the city. I mean, they really are extraordinary and always have been for a good number of years, at least as long as I've been around. I want to go to John, get this last call in. John from Pennsylvania. Very quickly, John, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the butterfly must have kicked the bishop in the head. It's so practical and so common sense. We were raised in the 50s with discipline. Mm-hmm. And I am so grateful that the nuns and priests kept us in line. And if had be, they used corporal punishment. And I'm so grateful. Okay. And that was the way it was in our time, in the 50s.
Okay. Father, final comment from you. Where do you go from here, Father John?
Well, we are in ongoing discussions with the Archbishop. I think he has recognized that our community has spoken very loudly and very definitively. What we want is that our school community and its tradition, its history, and the work that it's doing today to be respected. You know, St. Augustine this year produced 12 12 seniors who signed NCAA scholarships. We have the largest number of athlete scholars in the state this year. We just won the state championship in basketball last weekend, and we are continuing to produce National Merit Scholars, National Achievement Scholars. You know, we love our school. We have a great school, but most importantly, we want our parents and we want our families, our students to be respected. You know, we had a single mother whose son is at our school, and she lamented to the Archbishop, to the Josephite Superior and his council, why in 2011 does an African-American mother have to beg permission from a group of men predominantly from another culture to raise her child according to the way that is completely consistent with her Christian faith and with the tradition, the culture of our people. And we simply want that to be respected. We are...
Father John, Raphael, I am out of time, Father John. I wish we had more, but thank you so much for being here, for your comments, and we will continue to follow this story. For more about St. Augustine High School in New Orleans, visit purplenights.com. When we return, Dr. Meg Meeker joins me to talk about motherhood and restoring passion, purpose, and sanity to the most important of vocations. Listen up, mothers. The World Over Live continues in a moment. Stay right there.
Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over Live. Mothers have it rough. The expectations are intense, the competition brutal, and that's before you even talk about the kids and the hubby. My next guest has spent 25 years practicing pediatric and adolescent medicine, as well as counseling teens and their parents. In her latest book, she throws mothers a lifeline. It's called The 10 Habits of Happy Mothers, Reclaiming Our Passion, Purpose, and Sanity. Would you welcome to the program Dr. Meg Meeker. Thanks for being here, Dr. Meeker.
Thanks for having me, Raymond.
It's delightful to have you back on the show. Last time you were via satellite, so it's good to have you here.
Face to face.
Now, as a professional in this realm, what is your diagnostic on mothers today? Where are mothers and why are they so on edge?
Yeah, they are very much on edge. And as I interviewed mothers about this book, I could just see the relief on their face. Thank you for finally addressing the fact that we feel like we're ready to topple over an edge. Here's what mothers are feeling. They feel that they need to be perfect mothers, which means making everything from scratch and homemade and have your home beautiful. They need to raise high-performing kids. And we saw that fed with the, the book, The Tiger Mom.
Right, I want to talk about that.
You want a high-performing kid, this is what you do. They feel that if they're working, they need to be better at their work. And of course, the fourth area is we need to be fit. We need to be at the gym 4 times a week for 45 minutes, and we need to be losing that last 10 pounds. And no wonder at the end of the day when we lay our head on the pillow, we're exhausted. In short, mothers feel that no matter what they're doing, they're never doing it well enough. And you live with that feeling day in and day out, and it really is an enormous burden on you. And we found that 43% of mothers in America say they're not very happy in their roles as mothers. And this is tragic because we chose to be moms, and I believe that being a mother is the highest calling a woman can have, and the joy is gone. So my mission with this book is to help women take a big, deep breath, say, I'm going to reclaim my joy in being a mom, and I'm going to get rid of the excess noise that I feel in my mind and take back my joy.
I want to open this up to callers. If you have a question, particularly if you're a mom on the edge, you want a strategy to get over whatever difficulty you're encountering, or if you have a parenting question, Dr. Meeker has written 2 incredible books on boys and raising boys and girls, both of which we have on our shelves. 1-800-221-9460 in the U.S., 205-271-2980 internationally, and worldover@EWTN.com is the email address. Tell me, what is the biggest mistakes moms make?
I think the biggest mistake that mothers make is undervaluing themselves and feeling that in their kids' lives, particularly when kids are teenagers, life is all about peers. That what they really need to boost the self-esteem of their kids is make sure that they're with the right friends, that they have a lot of peers. And mothers, like fathers, really don't understand how powerful they are in their kids' eyes. And that when all is said and done, we, moms and dads, hold the real power in shaping a solid identity in our kids. And we feel a lot of peer pressure. You know, we feel that television is going to do it, and the peers are going to do it, and this culture is going to sort of gobble up our kids. Well, first of all, we shouldn't parent in fear, but also we really need to understand that as far as our kids go, we're it.
Yeah, and they want to. I heard you say something one time, you were being interviewed, and you said kids don't want to do 180 things.
They don't.
They want you at their side. They want to spend time with you.
Absolutely. And as far as mothers go, you know, mothers feel that we need to bake the brownies from scratch, never use the box, and heaven help us, we don't buy brownies and give them to our kids. Kids just want to eat the brownie with us. They don't care where it comes from.
They don't care whether it's shake and bake or what it is.
You know, and we run around because we have this image in our mind of what the perfect mom should be and what the perfect child should be of the perfect mother. And we aspire to be that, and our kids don't care about that. Our kids want us to get the big stuff right. They want to be adored by us. They want affection from us. They want time with us. And that's it. And as long as we get the big stuff right, we need to let all the rest go.
Yeah, I want to go through some of these habits because that touches on a lot of your advice and the habits you lay out for a happy mom. One is maintain key relationships. Why? Why is that so important? If you're supposed to be spending time with your kids, how can you maintain a busy social life?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily a busy social life. What I'm exhorting mothers to do is say, you know what, our expectations of our husbands to be our best friends and our everything. And
easy there, Dr. Meeker. Easy. Okay. But go ahead. My wife is watching.
She's watching. Okay. And our expectations of our kids and that our family should be our whole world. It's setting our husbands and our kids up to be something they really can't be. We need to look to a couple close women friends in our lives to lean on them to take some of the pressure off of our husbands and off of our kids. And that's how you really form a solid, healthy family. And I really believe that's a solid biblical phenomenon, is that we are to have close women friends that we can lean on, who on some days will literally just keep us standing upright.
The book, in the book, The 10 Habits of Happy Mothers, you also have a very interesting chapter which you hardly ever see in a parenting book or an advice book, and it's a whole chapter on faith and the need for faith. Yes. Why is it so difficult for mothers to make space in their lives for faith?
Well, time, because really what the book is about is nurturing our inner world, our inner life. And at the core of that inner life is our faith with God. And right outside of that are our relationships with our husband and our children. And it's extremely important for mothers because we always feel, well, God will be there and I can attend to him later. You know, what I really need to do is attend to the needs of my kids, the needs of my family, get dinner on the table, run kids everywhere. And we really leave God behind and we take him for granted. But the truth of the matter is, Christ for us is living water. It's life and it's breath. And it sustains us. It is life itself. And we are so dry. And we need to go to the well, if you will, and drink of him so that we can enjoy life and be better mothers.
And have something to bring to your family.
Exactly.
I love that you distinguish between faith and religion in this book.
Yes.
Tell people the difference. The first time I read it, I said, where's she going with this?
Yeah. Well, really what I'm talking about is bringing God into our life and experiencing his person, his character, his spirit on a deeply personal level. And to have that relationship where we're so close with him that we can pray as we're driving, we can pray as we're cooking. He is there, he is with us. And I really believe that that's at the heart of the gospel, is that profound intimacy with the person of Christ. And that is not religion, that's not the rules, that's the relationship. And for me, that's the heart of our faith.
You also have a section in here about the mother culture, how competitive it is.
Yes.
And this is something I was sort of unaware of until a few years ago. Men are, we're thick as that table. But when you start watching how women interact, it's much more competitive and, dare I say, nasty than any male competition.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is there that toxicity, if you will, between women and that jealousy?
Yeah. Well, I think that we feel that we need to be perfect moms. And the way we judge whether we're being a perfect mom, in addition to the idea we have in our mind, is we compare ourselves to other mothers, and we need to one-up them. Women do a very peculiar thing. When we first meet another mother, we size her up in our mind. What does she look like? How smart is she? What's her job? Does she work? Do we not? And then we take it a step further and we size up her kids. What are her kids doing compared to our kids? And this is a very unhealthy thing to do. And I really feel that it comes from a sense of insecurity and fear that we have that we're not good enough. And it pits women against women. There are the wars between the women who work outside the home and the mothers who stay at home full time. There's this tremendous animosity, and we've got to stop that.
How do you break that cycle? How do you break that cycle of jealousy?
Well, what we need to do is say, what is it that makes us great moms? It has nothing to do with our performance. It has to do with what we bring to our kids and how well we love our kids and the time we spend with our kids. And we have so much in common with one another as mothers. And that commonality is much deeper than the jobs that we do inside the house or outside the house. And we need to start relating on that level, forget the superficial.
I'm going to throw out two callers here. Jane from Illinois. Very quickly, Jane, what's your question?
Well, that was kind of my question. She said it well about the pitting against. I feel, though, I'm a stay-at-home mom, that we are often kind of pushed away to the side because we're not using our education or what have you. And I just think it's a very difficult thing to stay in the house day in and day out with the children. And I have a sister who I love dearly and is a very high-powered person down in Texas. But she told me, she said, I wouldn't want your job. I need my job. And so that kind of told me that even though I'm not making money outside of the home, it is a tough job to stay at home. And I think there's no magazine out there. There's no stay-at-home mom. I mean, I haven't seen it in any waiting rooms, but I've sure seen a lot of the working mom magazines.
Thank you. That's good
well,
question.
What a wonderful point. And I will honestly say I've been through medical school. I've been through a grueling residency for 3 years. And I will tell you that those are easy compared to being home full-time with youngsters and toddlers. And I've done both. Full-time at home because
you're a mother of four.
Mother of four, and they're grown. And I was home full-time with our kids when they were very young while my husband was working. You have mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion. You're doubting yourself all the time, and you don't have that. Going to work is very clean and easy. You know what your job is. You're not emotionally invested all the time. You do it, you come home, you're done.
And there's a time when the whistle blows and it's over.
It's over.
Not so with the mother.
And you get a paycheck at the end of the day. So even if nobody says thank you, good job, at least you get a paycheck. That's not so with motherhood. But motherhood is the highest calling for women who are in families, and we woefully undervalue it. And that's what I hope comes out of this book, that mothers feel better about who they are.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and works 1,000 times harder than I do. And I work out of the home some days of the week. And
so you see?
I see it up close. I don't deal with it, but I see it. And I see what the heavy load it is. But, today is our oldest boy. His 12th birthday is today. Aww. And Rebecca when I came downstairs, she had tears in her eyes. And I said, what are you crying about? It's his birthday. She said, today, 12 years ago, we became parents for the first time. And it kind of... So mothers, you mention it in the book, mothers live deeply.
Yes.
You say in the book. And that's true.
We do.
There's some, and feel deeply, I think. the jealousies and the competitiveness and wanting to, overbook the kids and make sure they're being exposed to everything. Yeah. Have we gone too far with overbooking kids at this point?
Yes, definitely. Because we feel that in order to be great parents, we need to give our children every opportunity under the sun, lest we miss a talent that they should have had nurtured. And for instance, they might be the figure skater and go on to the Olympics, but because we didn't get them to figure skating lessons, we chose piano instead, we missed the ball, we're a failure as a mother. Mm-hmm. And we so desperately want to win at this motherhood thing that we overschedule our kids. And our kids know exactly what we're doing. And they feel that if they're going to get our attention, they need to perform on the soccer field and go to the hockey games, because there we are on the sidelines cheering them on, when really what it's doing is it's making us feel better about being mothers. But it's not really about being a better mother. It's about making us feel like we're better mothers. Because that's not really what our kids want. Our kids want our time, they want our energy, they want our love, and they want our attention.
They want us to leave. They want us to leave our imprint on them.
They absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Here's an email. This is from Sam, and he writes, could these counterproductive activities mother do be possibly considered a sort of it takes a village mentality?
Well, they could. I think that most certainly, and I think that it is biblical, that we need people in our lives, in our children's lives, to help mentor them and to help shed onto them the values that we espouse and to help them. But I think that I don't see the competition and the running around of all the extracurricular activities in a very positive communal way. I think it's very negative.
Anastasia from Ohio, you're on the line. What's your question?
Boy, what you're talking about really hits the nail on the head. I've got some very close family members that are driving themselves just totally nuts, running their kids from here to there and everywhere, with the idea that they might be a possible scholarship in it for them when they get ready to graduate high school. And I've tried to talk to a couple of them saying, you need to slow down for your own sake and for their sake. And they don't hear it. I mean, they don't see where there's any problem. They want to, like you said, expose their kids to everything because they don't want to miss something. So how can I talk to them? Maybe I should just buy Meg's book and give it to them.
That's a start. That's a good start.
It's a good start because it's sweeter coming from a stranger like me than coming from a sister-in-law or an aunt or something. And the truth of the matter is, a child's identity is formed by watching his mother and his father and receiving messages about who he is to them, and then he internalizes that. If we don't have enough face-to-face time with our kids and they're out doing all of those activities and trying to shape an identity around doing a lot of stuff, there's a deep hole that's left, and they don't have a solid identity formed. So they really need that face-to-face time watching us and figuring out who they are to us.
And who they are in the world.
And who they are in the world.
Tell me, clinically, in your practice, what are you seeing as a result of these overscheduled, because on these college entrance exams, they have to have volunteered, in Zimbabwe and, run the triathlon. I mean, they have to do 20 things to get into college.
Right.
What extracurriculars?
Right.
What are you seeing in your practice from these young people who are parented in this frenetic way?
Well, kids feel that they need to jump through a lot of hoops to keep mom and dad's attention. They know that this is a game and that they need to keep up with the game. And they can't articulate it, but they feel the pressure. And I see a lot of burnout in kids in high school, particularly the kids that are overscheduled from second grade, third grade, fourth grade. They hit freshman and sophomore year in high school and they're done. And they want nothing to do with it. And to parents, I say, and this sounds sort of sacrilegious in our culture, but so what that your kid didn't get the scholarship to Yale? So what? Does that mean that that is the hallmark of success, is getting into the school you want your child to get into? I have a lot of very successful, very happy friends who went to all sorts of colleges, and nowadays you can get an outstanding education at so many different schools. Life is really about building solid, good kids. not high-performance kids who feel very empty and maybe even unloved in the end.
Wow. We have a lot of calls and emails coming in. I'm not going to have time to get all of them, but what we'll do is continue on with Dr. Meeker, and we'll post this on the web so you can see some of your other answers. But I want to ask you this before we run out of time. One of the big points in the book, and it's something that certainly hit home with me, we have to learn to live simply.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so funny because people say, well, I just don't have time to learn how to live simply.
That's the problem.
You're the one that really needs it. First of all, what I recommend is beginning to unplug electronically, literally unplug. Start with little bits at a time. Sit down and write down what you do every minute of the day or every hour of the day. It's amazing how much time we spend on our cell phones, on our computers, and plugged in. And start by saying, I'm going to take a half hour a day, an hour in the evening when I am not going to be connected to anything electronic. And it's uncomfortable at first, and then we do that and we start slicing things out of our life. Everybody wants to do less, but they want somebody else to go first. Right. So have the courage to go first, slice something from your child's day, from your day. I had a rule when our kids were growing up that I did nothing at night. No evening meetings, no PTA, no youth group leadership, nothing. I wanted to be home with our kids at night. And my husband was pretty strict about our kids not being out at night also. And they felt very antsy because all their kids were out. But you know what? Now that they're grown and they're in their 20s, they are so grateful.
See the wisdom.
Yes, for the time that we had together.
Last question, because I've got so many emails about this. Your response to our earlier segment, do you think corporal punishment, paddling, should be used in a high school setting?
No, I don't. I agree with the Archbishop, and here's why. I think that the kids are too old, and I think that's humiliating for kids. And I realize I really feel it's a parent's responsibility to discipline, and I realize that a lot of these kids aren't getting disciplined, but I think there are more effective ways. I think it would be a good idea, for instance, rather than paddling the boys, make them stay after school and clean the school. You know, make them work for that, and I think that it's age inappropriate.
Very good. Dr. Meg Meeker, the book, The 10 Habits of Happy Mothers, Reclaiming Our Passion, Purpose, and Sanity. It's from Ballantine Books, and it's available at bookstores everywhere. You can follow Dr. Meeker by visiting her website, megmeekermd.com. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Ray.
It's a pleasure. Until next week, you can find updates and the occasional commentary by following me on Twitter or on my Facebook fan page. Just go to RaymondArroyo.com and you can click through from there. You can also sign up for my e-blast and get your free, fully dramatized Gospel of Mark from the Truth and Life audio Bible at RaymondArroyo.com. Finally, a happy birthday to my big guy, Alexander, on his 12th birthday. Love you, Guy. Can't believe it's been 12 years. Until next week, we'll be scouting the world over for all that is seen and unseen. Next week, actor Aidan Quinn is here. On behalf of the staff and crew of EWTN News, I'm Raymond Arroyo. As we leave you, here's the priests singing an Irish blessing. Good night.